Hello, everyone. Welcome to a MyCom Screencast on how to improve your church's web presence. My name is Eric Cyberling, and we have put together 3 different sessions in order to help you really understand how you can define, build, and ultimately publicize your website and really help the church connect digitally, especially right now when it's so important for us to connect every way we can. Let's just start by looking at this picture. And as we think about this, when we see a church that's been abandoned, it breaks our heart. The landscaping is not done, the building is in poor repair, and it just looks dead. And we would never allow our church, if it's actually open and running, to ever look like this. But unfortunately, we allow this to happen for many of our church's presence online. As we start to think about it, ask yourself this question. As you look at these 2 different websites, which church would you attend? If you look at the one on the left, it looks very old. It looks very dated. The URL is kind of strange. And there's only one link on it, which is to the newsletter. And if you click on that link, the newsletter ends up being from 4 years ago. We have to think about if someone's driving by that doesn't belong to the church, except this is driving by digitally, what would they think? As you look to the website on the right, it's got a clear URL, WAPOC first, and it comes from the Wapakoneta community where they refer themselves as WAPOC. And then as you take a look at it, it's attractive. It has a clear call to action. It has a very simple navigation, a welcome home, meet First Church, worship your way, grow in faith, serve others, and so on. And so when you really take a look at that, you have to ask yourself a question of which church would you attend? This becomes really important because not just in the pandemic, but anytime, anyone that is looking for a new church will do almost all their research online and make a selection of where they want to go. And just like in businesses today, where 60 to 70% of the buying decision is done online before anyone ever shows up at the place of business, the same is true for churches. People will do their homework. They will look at your church website, and while you may have the most beautiful faith community on the planet, they'll never come because of your digital presence. Why don't we fix it? And why do we think websites are so hard? And I think the major issue is because we don't really know where to start. We get overwhelmed by the technology. There's a lot of writing involved and pictures, and we just don't even know where to get started. What we're going to do in this 3-part screencast is we're going to help you walk through the process. And so we'll help you define your content. That'll be session 1. Session 2 will help you determine how to build your site and even how to develop the web copy in order to support it. And third is really how to help people find your site. What are the steps in order to create your website? And there are 5. The first one is really taking a step back and saying, who are we trying to reach? A lot of times we can get caught up in thinking, oh, it's about providing information that I would want. Well, if I've been at the church for 5-6 years, I may know the pastor. I may know my way around the building. I already know what to expect. And if our goal is to make disciples for Jesus Christ, then we always have to keep the eye on who are we trying to reach and how do we best connect with them. Once we do that and we have a clear definition of who we are trying to reach, we need to define the content of what do they need to know. And so working through that process, and we'll do those 2 first steps in the screencast. And then from there, we'll look at what platform or technology do we need to use, how do I end up laying it out, and how do I get everything written, and then finally, how do we help people find it? So again, today we're really going to focus on defining the content. So starting with who are you trying to reach? As we go through, it's what is the experience? How do we want people to feel when they connect with us online? And to do that, we have to really ask, who are we trying to reach? And what questions are they asking? And it really depends. So for your website, for most churches, actually for all churches, there are 3 groups of people that you need to connect with. The first one is the new person, someone that's whether they're new to the community or they're having a crisis of faith or just need help, whether it's physical needs, emotional needs, or going through some sort of trial or crisis. And especially today when we have so much stress hitting us and people are looking to connect with and get in community. And so we really have to figure out how do we create those connections with a new person that we may not even know. The second is your regular attender. These are the ones that whether they show up on Sunday morning, now online, or it may be the people that come in on Sunday morning. Third is really your active member. These are really your committed and your core members of your church that really drive your ministries forward. And if you think about these three groups, they have three very different needs, and they have three very different sets of questions that you have to connect with them. For the new person, they're asking the question is this place right for me? Every new person that's looking for a new church, whether they're a current believer or someone that is spiritually seeking, when they start to connect and look for a new church, they are in crisis. It is not the easiest thing in order to find a new church, and as we just recently moved, it's grueling looking for a new church home. Because the real question is about, is this right for me? And there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. How do you design your web experience in order to address those? And to really ask the questions of, what is worship like? The times, the styles, the sermon, is it relevant and meaningful to me? And will this church meet my needs? Does it have people my age? Are they addressing the issues that I'm facing? And in many respects, this comes into people have gaps in their life and they're looking to fill it. As we represent Christ, are we doing that in a way that's relevant and meaningful to the individual we're trying to reach? And finally, will I fit in? Theologically, will I fit in demographically? A lot of times it's trying to find a place that we feel at home and we feel safe. And psychographically as well, meaning does it fit kind of my beliefs and backgrounds? The second is the regular attender. They're showing up to worship weekly. Right now that may be online versus in person, but a lot of what they're asking is what's going on this week? What activities, what happenings are going on? How do I get involved? The simple ways to volunteer. And then also, how do I get connected? And there's been a number of church studies that have shown that if you have someone that comes from a new person, becomes a regular attender, if they do not have 5 people that they would call friends in your congregation by the end of 6 months, they're likely to leave. The same is true if you have someone that comes to the church but is not necessarily involved in at least one ministry. People want to do meaningful things, but they also need to know that they're happening. And so a lot of times churches are communicating right now by sending these very long emails, or they've got a 20-page newsletter. And it just makes it very hard in today's life for people to be able to see, this is what's going on, this is how I get plugged in, this is what I need to do this week. And so your website can really help you do that. That's the part where having a schedule online or having other things like that are really, really helpful, or a blog post that's, this is what's going on this week in the church, whether that's for the entire church or just for your youth group. It ends up helping people kind of get that little summary of what's going on in the church and knowing what I need to do in order to stay connected. The third really is the active member. Now think about these as your committed and your core people in your church. The question that they end up having is how do I keep up with what do I need to do? And a lot of this is coordination around, okay, this is the schedule of meetings. Websites can provide a tremendous amount of information for your active members to stay connected because they don't necessarily have it all top of mind. The other part that's really important with that, especially with active members, is really being able to tell the story of why it matters. Whether that's financial giving or whether that's the impact that you're having in your community, this is what will prevent your members from getting burned out, as well as if you do well with the regular attenders, of getting more and more volunteers to come in. So again, it's really important as you think about these things of really asking and getting very clear on these 3 groups and what information that they want to know. Now the question really is, okay, I understand the concept, but how do I really, really know what to put on our website that's relevant for our church? And the key really is to ask them. So as you have a new members class, talk to new people and say, why did they start attending their church? What elements of the church really attract them? Because then you can bring that to life on your website. For regular attenders, it's really asking the question of how can we help you stay connected and involved? As we're so busy and as we have so many different things going on, what are the few things that we can really do as a church in order to help connect them and help communicate with them in a way that's relevant and meaningful? And for active members, it really is around how do we help them grow deeper in their faith, in the faith community. First, finding out just what normal activities, whether it's prayer time, whether it's small groups, whether it's participating in a particular mission trip. And then ask the question of what ways can we connect with you online in order to help you do that? So it's not only understanding the things that are relevant and meaningful to them, but then starting to ask of, okay, as we look to bring this online, how can we do that in a way that's meaningful for you? Now, for some people, it may end up being, text message me. For others, it may be, I want the email of the week, or, I just like the short kind of 5-minute like announcement reel, except online, that I can go and see later in the week if I either missed church or if I just wasn't paying attention. So, I think there's different questions there. And what you want to do is you want to start to mark all those down and write all those down. And then that can really help you get to the next step. So once we understand who we're trying to reach, then the next thing is understanding what content do we need. This is a part that churches often struggle with. It's hard to really map out the entire experience of someone coming to the website and what do they want to read and what information do we provide from them. And there's two ways that you can do that. The first one is you can build your content map from scratch. And so what this is you take the answers from all your interviews and you put them on Post-it notes. You put, let's say, a content chunk. So let's just say it is events going on this week, and put it on a Post-it note. And you put all those different elements on Post-it notes. You put them all on a table and you get a group probably of about 4 to 6, especially if they're mixed groups, similar to the ones that you interview. And then what you can do is you can have them, everyone silently, move the Post-it notes into different groups. And you keep going until everyone silently agrees or they just can't agree and you're stuck. Once you're complete with that, then you can have each person describe their organizing principle for about 2 minutes. And like, oh yeah, well, I wanted to say, okay, if you're new here, that's why I put this in this group. This is around giving, or this is around kids, or what have you. And then work as a team to name each group, and then work on the disagreements. Take the key questions by the group. So the new member, the regular attender, and your committed member, and then say, are the answers easy to find? So that's one way you can do it. And this can be a very rich conversation to really start to flesh out and define your strategy. But there's another one. This can be really hard. And the other strategy can really be is you can steal with pride. That really is going through a whole number of websites and go together as a group and say which ones you like and which ones you don't, and then steal with pride. And really what that is you start reviewing these different websites. There's a few examples down here, as well as you see the sitebuilderreport.com had this inspiration post on church websites. And you can really go through and say, okay, what did we like about this site? And would that be meaningful to us? And just start building your site map. Now, one example I use here is a manual UMC. And here, this is built with Weebly, and we'll talk about that next screencast. Here we're going to their actual site. This is Jefferson, Emmanuel Jefferson. And here you can see home. Okay, that makes sense. As you go through the home is you start to see the welcome and some different messages here. This is also very important always to have your church time and your address on here, as well as contact information and so on. And so you can go through and take a look, and here they have who we are, first visit, sermons. Sermons are really important because it's one of the major things that new people look for is they want to listen to the sermon and see if it's relevant to them. But they'll look for other touch points. Let's say, hey, I've got kids, and what do they have for my children? Or how do I get connected, or contact, or giving? For this church too is also really interesting. They added New Church, which is what they're calling their online broadcast and their digital expression. This is really important for us right now, given the pandemic. But here you've got the episodes, and they have that as well. But as you go through and you look at some of the site, you're like, oh, this is Kids Town, and like, oh, okay, where kids come to meet Jesus. And there are pictures, so it lets me know what it starts to look like, and I get a feel for what this is going to be. That's really important, because as you go into a church for the first time, you're like asking the question, is this safe for my kid? Is it a place that feels warm and inviting and relevant to me? If we go to first visit, you start to see, what time should I be there? What should I wear? And what you may end up saying is, okay, this really would make sense for us too, and then you put it on your site map. Another example, and I wanted to show this is Sonship. It's a church in Brooklyn, New York. And one of the things they did really interesting is they start to have some major connections. If you see down here where it says Sunday services, what to expect about us, is they brought some of the major questions front and center. So if someone comes in and visits, they immediately get started on some of these key questions. So if we go to the website and we go to what to expect, Here you see just some basics: music, prayer, offering, fellowship, some of the upcoming events and recent sermons. And so, go through these sites, go through a large number of these websites and start to say, okay, this is what we think could be really relevant for our community and the people we're trying to reach. Now, the key goal in all of this is to keep it simple. And so you can start by putting a lot of different things on a sitemap. Okay, and here's an example of that, which is here you end up saying welcome home, and it's friendly welcome, what to expect, prayer request, sermon example, or even a church walkthrough. And we did that in one of our churches where we actually took a video camera and we kind of walked someone through the experience of attending the church. We did this pre-COVID. And then we ended up having our church that we currently attend. They did it for saying this is how in the pandemic, as we're slowly opening up church, this is what church will feel like right now. And that was really important because a lot of us had fear on that. And so it's really important. The more information you can give somebody, the more you can take out that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the better off you'll be. Here you see Meet First Church. This was just a long page. It's like hi neighbor, our story, why we're here, what we believe, meet our community and family. It's actually, we just marked it for future testimonials, and it was a bunch of short testimonials of why are you at First Church? And then join us, which is a call to action. Worship, and you see grow, and we had it broken out by group. Serve, or how to get involved. And then My First Church, which is really designed for our regular attenders and our active members. So you end up building this, and so it ends up providing an outline for your church website. And this is something that is really important for everyone to agree on and lay it out up front. And then what you want to do is you want to take the sitemap, and then you want to bring people, again, maybe it's the ones that you've interviewed, maybe it's new people, and you would start to ask them of like, okay, if the website, what questions would you ask? Okay, where on the site would you go? Now, what we haven't said is, okay, what exactly does this look like online? But at least you want them to say of like, yeah, I want to see, what's worship look like? Okay. Or what's your worship times and so on. So it just gives you a way to start to frame out what the website will look like. This helps us really get started. And so take the time to do this and you won't regret it. The more time you put into really building a sitemap that everybody can agree to, the easier it will be for the other two steps. So that's it for this screencast. And so the next screencast we're going to do, we'll get into the details of how to build your site. What we'll do is we'll take a little bit of a look at the technologies that are out there that you can use. There are many, but we'll talk about a few of those, as well as we'll start to talk about this should be the way that you ask different people to participate in writing the content and getting the images for your site so one person isn't responsible for it all. It's the only way the site gets done, so please make sure to join us for that. Finally, if you have any questions about this screencast, please send me an email at eric@brokensheep.com or make a comment below. I'll try to monitor those and respond to you. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. God bless.